Papa John's boasts over 5,500 locations across the globe and reports revenues of over $2 billion. Despite its current status as a global brand, it is surprising to learn that the company had very humble beginnings. So how did Papa John's become a global mega company worth $2.65 billion? And is there something deeply sinister about the beloved pizza chain we need to know about? Here's the whole story, the shocking twists and turns, and what eventually happened to Papa John's. In the autumn of 1977, John A. Schnatter, a 15-year-old boy, landed his first job washing dishes at Rocky's Sub Pub, a small Italian pizzeria in Jeffersonville, Indiana. However, John had his heart set on making pizzas and was eventually allowed to prepare the pizza dough and tomato sauce after months of hard work. Despite this opportunity, the Fondrisi family, who owned the restaurant, refused to let him bake pizzas and kept the honor within the family. Nevertheless, John persisted, and his determination paid off when a glowing review from Kentucky's largest newspaper led to an increase in business at Rocky's. The Fondrisis were forced to ask John to help bake pizzas to keep up with the demand, and he took to it with ease, never returning to dishwashing again. In 1982, when the American pizza industry was dominated by Pizza Hut, Domino's, and Little Caesars, John knew he needed to stand out to compete with these giants. He believed that taste and quality were the only aspects left to compete in, and his pizzeria chain needed to resemble a mom-and-pop shop, no matter how big it got. After completing his university studies, John returned home to Jeffersonville. Eventually, his father, Robert, offered him a job managing his bar, Mix Lounge. Unfortunately, the business was in a dire state, with poor quality food and drinks, unhappy staff, and a debt of $64,000. Despite the bleak situation, John saw this as an opportunity to use his entrepreneurial spirit and took on the challenge. He worked tirelessly for 7 months, implementing cost-cutting measures, coming up with creative sales techniques, and organizing events to boost profits. To pay off the debt, he even sold his beloved Chevrolet Camaro. By February 1984, John had managed to transform Mix Lounge into a thriving business, but he wasn't content. John knew he needed to find something else that he was passionate about. One fateful night in March 1984, John's gaze fell upon a broom closet while he was closing up Mix. It suddenly came to him in a flash. His dreams of running his own pizzeria. He went home, immediately dug the cardboard box filled with his Papa John's plans out of his closet, and began plotting away. That's when John came up with a devious scheme. Late at night, John snuck over to the pizza delivery king of the town, Domino's. His target? Their dumpster contained hundreds of receipt slips with customers' names, addresses, and orders. John happily dived into the dumpster and stole as many receipts as he could. After collecting enough from his dumpster database, John wrote each potential customer a personally signed letter that read, "To the pizza lover who this concerns, Papa John's makes better pizzas. We'll give you half off on your first order. Give us a try." Papa John's had a dedicated and expanding customer base and was on the path to success. However, the majority of their business came from deliveries, and customers who came to Mix, where the pizza was served, rarely returned. In February 1985, John obtained a $40,000 loan to establish the first official Papa John's pizzeria. A boarded-up KFC location next to their bar provided the space they needed for their new venture. John and his team worked tirelessly on the project while also running Mix and the pizzeria in its broom closet. In mid-March 1985, John's father, Robert Schnatter, died. John was heartbroken, but the morning following his father's funeral, he was determined to fulfill his father's wishes. He picked up a hammer and some nails and returned to work. On April 11th, 1985, just 19 days after his father's passing and around a year after John first began making pizzas out of Mick's broom closet, the first proper Papa John's restaurant opened its doors for business. Although they were located right next to Mick's, their business improved exponentially, both due to the more family-friendly atmosphere, as well as the simple fact of having the Papa John logo proudly displayed on a sign above the door, rather than hidden away in the back of a bar. At the end of their first month, they'd tripled their previous sales record inside Mick's, and their growth only continued from there. By the next month, they eclipsed the sales of their toughest competitor, the same Domino's that John had dumpster dived at before. That got John thinking, if he could beat the competition in Jeffersonville, then what was stopping him from taking on the rest of the world? He chose the nearby town of Clarksville, Indiana, for the second location of Papa John's. It was just around 5 miles away and right outside of their current delivery range. Leading up to the second location's grand opening, John returned to his old tricks and raided the dumpster of Clarksville's Domino's for customer addresses to send handwritten letters to. It worked just like before. Unwilling to let the momentum go to waste, John quickly set off to build a third location in the next town less than a month later, which proved to be yet another success. Then in early 1987, Papa John's location in Louisville finally broke through, earning a profit and a dedicated customer base. Thanks to the time John spent improving the company's foundation, he was able to capitalize on this success with a vengeance, and bought out 3 new locations of a failed pizza chain in the city to be converted into Papa John's as well. After Robert's passing, the ownership of Papa John's was split among 3 individuals. John owned 49%, Bob Ehringer, one of the earliest team members, owned 36%, and John's uncle Bill owned 15%. Although the trio had an excellent relationship during the company's early years, things began to sour by 1987 due to the key issue of profits. Bill wanted to stop spending so much money, time, and effort on expanding. Bill spent a great deal of time driving around with Bob, maintaining the stores, and used that time to slowly but surely bring him over to his side rather than John's. John recognized that he needed to regain control of the company and fast. Otherwise, his life's work could have come crashing down, especially as the infighting was already causing the chain's quality control to slip. In early 1988, Bob called up John asking for $20,000. Bob had become obsessed with a speedboat he purchased and wanted to increase its power with a new muffler. John saw his chance and offered to hand over the cash in exchange for 2% of Bob's shares in Papa John's. Bob agreed, and with that, John owned a majority in the company, and Papa John's future was saved. Later that year, John decided to buy out their shares completely for over $300,000. That probably seemed like a fine price to Bob and Bill at the time, although they would soon look back and think they'd got ripped off. Despite their success, John's ambitions were running faster than his profits, and Rick Sherman, then CEO of the Rally's hamburger chain, suggested using Wall Street's money to fund Papa John's growth. After months of paperwork, Papa John's hit Wall Street on June 8, 1993, and became worth $344 million in a single day. By 1998, Papa John's had opened its first international location in Mexico City and reported $1 billion in system-wide restaurant sales. In 2017, Papa John's sales were down, and its stock price followed suit. John blamed the NFL for this, which Papa John's sponsored. John publicly criticized the NFL for its handling of the national anthem protests started by Colin Kaepernick. Then, during a call with a PR firm, John used the N-word, explaining why he didn't think his comments were that bad compared to what others had said. This created lots of controversy for Papa John's. John stepped down as CEO and chairman of the company due to the backlash. Papa John's created a new policy called a poison pill to ensure John could never acquire a controlling stake in the company again, since he was considered too toxic to the brand. In November 2019, John did a public interview where he criticized Papa John's and the way it had been run since his exit. He even criticized the company's food, saying it didn't taste as good. Although some think that this is bad news for the company, many others just consider that John is bitter. If you like this video, then hit the like button to let the YouTube algorithm know that it's a great video. Subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon to never miss another video.